Hi everyone, welcome to our blog post for today. We get the question all the time, what does labor feel like? So we're going to attempt, our very best attempt to explain what labor feels like, but keep in mind it's different for absolutely everyone. So we're going to do our best.
Yeah. Here we go.
So the very first thing that happens in labor is early labor. So, before that is the Braxton Hicks, kind of the practice labor where you can feel some tightening, some sensation. Some even say it hurts. It can hurt for some people. But then there's...
You also, the visual part of it, some women have no sensation. Their belly gets like a hard rock and gets like a very round shape and might hold that for a few seconds and then it releases. So those would be your Braxton Hicks if you have no sensation with them.
My stomach would just tweak over to the left. But that's what mine felt like. Again, it's going to be different for everybody. Early labor would be, the very beginning stages of labor where contractions are happening kind of frequently, but there's no real pattern to it, but there's definitely some sensation. So I'm going to try, again, this is our attempting blog. I'm going to try to draw a pregnant belly. So this is, we'll call this the back or the posterior of the woman, and here's her pregnant belly. This is so bad.
That's pretty good, actually.
It's pretty good.
It is.
That's pretty good. So in early labor, you've got this uterus, and at the very bottom is a cervix. Well, it's a pretty thick cervix. But there's all these muscles down here at the bottom, and usually it's pointing towards a woman's back. So early on in labor, a lot of things need to change with this cervix. It needs to get softer, it needs to get thinner, it needs to move forward, which is why active labor is kind of the longest part of labor, is because there's so much stuff happening with the cervix, and a lot of people in early labor will feel cramping down low. And this is the reason why there's so many changes happening to this cervix down here. Mm-hmm. So cramping, like an overall achy feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of like a low, a lot of women feel it like kind of low down here, just like this kind of like a PMS kind of sensation.
Yeah, menstrual crampy, can feel it low down in the back. As labor progresses and we get more into active labor, opening starts to happen. I mean, opening's happening here too, but the sensation is generally down low. Mm-hmm. When opening happens a little bit more, you have these long muscles in your uterus like this. And what they tend to do is pull up or draw up the cervix muscles like this to make an opening.
And we can imagine this is the baby's head here. So these muscles are pulling up, and it's essentially pulling it over the baby's head, and that's actually what the cervical opening. So this part here.
Yeah, so that sensation, that kind of crampy-like sensation can intensify, and it actually starts to feel like a lifting up for some women. Like for me, it felt like somebody had little puppet strings and they were lifting it up and dropping it down through my contractions, which I thought it was really cool because this is what I do for a living, and I was so excited to finally feel it. It just felt like a lifting up, and a lot of people will feel that, and they'll also feel more sensation up here too. So if you put your hand on the top of your belly, you can feel it get harder, like your forehead.
Yeah, for sure. And because the contraction, as it pulls up, it kind of creates it increases intensity and then puts it back down. So I know that when I was in labor, I had this oh, here we go again. And you had to breathe and get right on top of it so that you can, manage and cope through those contractions. So it gives that and then come back down. So Natasha had kind of a smaller sensation throughout her contractions. And I remember mine just being this big yeah, and then goes back down.
Yeah, so a lot of people, especially as labor progresses, it'll feel a lot more like pressure, a lot more happening. Some people say it's painful. Some people say it's
fatiguing.
Yeah, tiring. They keep coming even if you sit down or stand up. And there's things that you can do that make them feel worse, like laying on your back. Being able to move around and do what you want to do and relax and keep the lights low is going to help with that intensity if you're feeling intensity. And some people will even feel the intensity back here as well. And then as you even go further and further along, the baby's going to start to come down. I don't know if I can draw a baby in here. Can I?
Yeah, sure. Let's just do a little head and stick body.
That's the little head. It's going to be looking at your back, hopefully. And that looks like a baby. No?
Yeah, we'll just put its body up here.
Little legs, little hands.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh gosh, that's really bad. So anyway, this is your baby, and the baby is starting to make its way down. And as the baby starts to make its way down, as you can see, your pelvis would be here, and the baby starts to put pressure as it gets lower and lower and lower. And then it gets really way down, wedged into the pelvis, and it puts pressure on your bum. And it starts to feel like you need to have a bowel movement, or you need to just kind of run to the washroom. For most people, it's a very unmistakable feeling, which is great. It means that you've probably made it to 10 centimeters. It's time to push the baby out. So a lot of people can feel a lot of pressure way down low as the baby starts to make its way through. And then as the muscles and all of the tissues and skin around the baby's head starts to stretch, some people say it feels like burning. Again, there's ways we can minimize that feeling, and especially if we can keep labor going slow and you being in a position that feels really good to you, you're going to minimize that stretching feeling as well. But definitely following your body's lead during this point is going to help a ton. We do have a really nice blog post called "Why Does Labor Hurt Like?" And if you can take a moment to look at that, it's going to talk about how we can minimize some of the sensation people feel through labor. But that's it in a nutshell, kind of what labor feels like. If you want to weigh in at the bottom and help out some women who are on their way to giving birth very soon and tell us how it felt for you, go ahead. There's comments down on the bottom, and we'll also put the link to Why Does Labor Hurt Like?
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
talk to you later.